Guys, we got to talk about this new category that could definitely kill it in the next bull run. I'm not talking about DeFi, but I'm talking about RWAs. And what are RWAs? They're real world assets, tokenization. Think about all the big assets out there that can be tokenized and parceled out in bits by this technology that people would want to own and invest in. There's things like, art, which cost, millions of dollars and that people may not be able to afford if they had to buy the entire art piece on their own. But if they actually tokenize it and sell parts of it out, I actually saw this on Pawn Stars a few years ago. If they tokenize it and sell parts of it out, you can actually own 1/100th of that art piece. Now, you can't put that art piece on your wall by like a Picasso or something, but you will own part of it so you can claim ownership. And that makes some people feel good. If you want to hang an art piece on your wall, go get the cheap $5 stuff from Walmart. That works just as well. Maybe not quite as impressive, but it looks almost as good. And from people looking from a distance, they probably can't tell. But either way, like just the prestige of saying you own a part of a Picasso or part of a Leonardo, that actually gets people's blood going. And you know that's true because why else would you buy those BAYC things? People did it just to say, I own the BAYC stuff. How much more prestigious and awe-inspiring would it be like, oh, I own a Michelangelo, at least part of a Michelangelo. You can actually say that without it being a lie. And that's not obviously the only utility. You can also own like partial investments, like parts of a property, parts of like, a New York Manhattan building. They actually did that on Ethereum a couple of years ago, but this is actually becoming widespread and there are protocols to actually do this. Many of these projects are only millions in market cap or tens of millions in market cap. So there's massive potential for 100x growth or possibly even more. There are a couple of blue chippers in this category that we will actually mention, but there are plenty of others that, might be very, very risky. And indeed, they are very risky investments, but could pan out extremely well in the long run and make you tons of money that maybe people don't know about. So let's actually look at some of the blue chippers. I think the three blue chippers are going to be Centrifuge, Goldfinch Finance, and Maple. They all have good VC support behind them, but they're also supported by Coinbase or on Coinbase. Now, Centrifuge itself isn't actually supported on Coinbase, but the wrapped Centrifuge actually is. So these three, I think, are the big ones in the market right now. And the thing is, even if they're big ones in the market, their market cap isn't very high. I think I looked at Centrifuge and the market cap on CMC, I believe was at like, 100 something million or like 100 million. And, I can see a market cap of 10 billion or possibly even more in a bull run because this category is actually going to take off. Now, like the market cap of something like Centrifuge is only 114 million. The fully diluted market cap is only 136 million, which means most of the coins are already out. 136 million, 100x 136 million is 13.6 billion. And that's not that large of a market cap if you think about it during a bull run. 13 billion during a market run wouldn't actually even be top 10, maybe not even top 20. Probably top 20, but probably not top 15. And if you really think about it, having one of these RWA tokens in the top 20 isn't that far of a stretch, knowing how big the market for RWAs actually are. I mean, just think about the trillions of dollars worth of assets that could be tokenized. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't actually think everything needs to be tokenized. I think for instance, hats, you don't really need to tokenize a baseball hat or something like that. They're simply very cheap. But there's a lot of investments like stocks, some stocks, Berkshire Hathaway, for instance. You can't afford a share of Berkshire Hathaway because it's expensive, but you might be able to afford a tokenized portion of Berkshire Hathaway. Same thing with Apple and other stock prices that are very expensive. Bonds, you may not be able to afford, a $100,000 bond. And, maybe the higher denomination bonds actually have a higher discount rate that you want, but you can't afford one by yourself. So you buy in as part of one and you could get that discount. You can't afford a Manhattan skyscraper apartment because they're like $100 million. But you know what you can afford? You can afford part of a Manhattan skyscraper apartment and you can get partial rent from that property, or when the property sells, you can cash out on that property. This opens up just whole new fields of investment for a lot of people, and I think people will actually flock to this, and this is one of the real world utility cases for crypto. We've been talking about this for a while, but now there's actually a lot of protocols to actually do it. So I do think you should look at things like Centrifuge, which almost all the supply is actually out. It's not on Coinbase yet, but the wrap version is on Coinbase, so there's a good chance it'll get on Coinbase later. And at $100 million market cap, this definitely has a huge chance to grow. Same thing with Goldfinch Finance and Maple. Those are the three blue chippers that you want to be able to look at. And the others, like if you look at Goldfinch, GFI, I believe, this is much smaller, $13 million market cap. And there's not much volume. I think Centrifuge has quite a bit more volume. So like all these are basically like in the tens of, this one's actually on Coinbase. All these are actually in the tens of million caps or hundreds of millions of dollars market cap. And there is 50x, 100x potential, if not more. And if you want to look at some of the smaller ones like Polytrade, I think that's supported by Polygon. Those even have more potential. If it's only like a $2 million market cap, it has the potential to get listed on exchanges. However, these smaller ones are much more dangerous, especially in a bear market, which they can actually die before we get to the bull market. So right now, because the blue chippers that I actually mentioned, blue chippers for this industry that I actually mentioned, are very, very small right now, I do actually believe that like the blue chippers are probably the way to go. You can probably splash a cup, maybe like $50, $100 into something like Polytrade. But I think if you want to invest in the RWA market, you would actually invest in the blue chips because they are still fairly small cap. And I think they represent a lot of opportunity for people that actually want to invest. That's actually what I have on them right now. Would I make RWAs 100% of my portfolio? No, I would not make any one category 100% of my portfolio. I still think there's like traditional DeFi and other things that can actually be very, very good in terms of the next bull run and in terms of the next bull run and really like in terms of like ROI as well. So definitely don't make them 100% of your portfolio, but consider making maybe like 20% RWAs. Because if you're looking at real world utility, this is a very solid example. And this is something that crypto and blockchain does better than pretty much anything else. It's already been used for a couple of years, but it really hasn't been mass adopted. And they're really pushing for it right now. And of course, like the ones with like big VCs behind them, they're more likely to grab a bigger piece of the pie. So even if you're investing in like the blue chippers I mentioned, there's so much room for growth because the TVL total for this category is only like 2.3 billion right now. You can check on DeFi Llama for that. And the way you actually check on DeFi Llama for that is you go down here to DeFi Llama, you go to categories right here, and then you scroll down to RWA, and then you look at $2.4 billion in total, click on RWA, and they'll tell you some of the protocols. Now, STUSDT doesn't really count, that's a stable coin, but you have like Ondo Finance, Matrix Doc, Realty Tokens, Tangible RWA, BactFi, Maple RWA, Lofty, Open Eden T-bill, well, that's a T-bill, but like that's like tokenizing T-bills, which could actually be pretty large, Toucan Protocol, and things like that. There's a lot of things you can actually look at. Be very careful because this definitely is a new field. And with any new field, you're going to get a lot of scams and a lot of fakes. But like one strategy would actually be to spread your money out in 10 or possibly 20 of these smaller protocols. And as long as one or two of them work out, you will actually make out way better than you went in with. So the thing is, you only really have to have like a 20-30% success rate to actually make a lot of money. The other 70-80% could actually fail. And when you're investing in like these kind of penny cryptos, that's generally what happens. But the 20 or 30% that actually succeed will more than help you make up for it. So you definitely want to look at the list on DeFi Llama. You also want to check out the three blue chippers of like Centrifuge, Maple, and Goldfinch Finance. And you need to research into like which of the smaller ones actually have good VC money behind them because they actually have more value to them. Because I do believe like those guys could help get some real world tokenization in action. The thing is, like, would I keep these RWAs throughout the bull market even if it hyper pumps? No, I would still sell them like any other coin. Yes, I do believe the TVL and the amount locked in RWAs will surge over the coming years, but that doesn't mean you don't take profit when profit is there. You always want to take some profit when profit is there, especially if you already made like 50 or 100x. Definitely good time to sell that token and maybe invest in one that actually has 50 or 100x. Throwing like 20% of your portfolio into RWAs right now might actually be the key to making a lot of money because, outside of DeFi, I think this one actually can have massive growth. And, like some of these include DeFi as well. So don't overlook the RWAs. Pick up some of these coins and you could actually be in for a nice surprise because I don't think this is one field that's going away. And I think this is a field that has a lot of potential. Thank you and have a nice day.